running into each other.
Right.
My sense is that there's provocation happening on both sides. Our Western values have to honor free speech, but on the other hand, I think there has to be some sensitivity and recognition of the complexity of the clash at this moment in our world, and how we need to be careful going through it.
All right. I want to put if I could, hold on, Jim. I want to show you a quote from a critic for the New York Times who looked at these cartoons, and I think has looked at a lot of cartoons, and here is what he says. He says, "They're callous and feeble cartoons cooked up as a provocation by a conservative newspaper exploiting the general Muslim prohibition on images of the Prophet Mohameed to score cheap points about freedom of expression." Altaf Ali, I mean, what do you think? Do you think he's right?
I believe so. And I believe the newspaper itself achieved what they wanted to achieve. Right. Because they actually did mention that. Yeah. They actually published the article, the cartoons, the challenge, this, I guess, this sentiment that Muslims should not be, insulted in this manner. So they actually did it for that reason. Yeah. But,
here I think is the key issue. They set out to provoke, and they published these cartoons, which Jim Moran and a lot of people who did this for a living say they're not terribly accomplished and they would have been forgettable. But a lot of Muslims in Denmark and around the world have sort of, as it were, risen to the bait, and they have said they have made them into something which they probably aren't worth. Am I right?
Absolutely, because the thing is, the actions that the Muslims have taken is actually contrary to what our Prophet would have wanted them to do. So they actually enacted something against what the Prophet would have asked them to do. So the insult is not as much as the response that they utilized. Right.
Well, I take it, Dean Lloyd, I mean, as you look at the protests around the world and the lack of violence in this country among the millions of Muslims who live here, it really it's a tribute to the fact that they know they live within a pluralistic society. They don't like this, but they're not going to go out and burn down Starbucks or something, or the St. Louis Post-Dispatch or whoever. Although I don't think many newspapers in this country, as opposed to Western Europe, where a lot of newspapers reprinted the cartoons simply, as it were, I think, to say we can.
That's right, and to endorse that Western value that they claim to be so significant of freedom of expression. This has been, I think the quotation was exactly right, this has been a very carefully concocted crisis from people spotting points of real vulnerability in the Muslim world in this time, and able to play against them a very significant Western value to create this very sad and unhappy eruption. You're right, in this country it won't happen because the values of free expression are so woven into the fabric of our society, but that is not true for a lot of these societies.
Right. And Jim, I know that also woven into the fabric of our society in the last couple of years, since 9/11, is a view of Islam that perhaps isn't entirely fair to moderates, but I mean, we see a lot of this through the prism of 9/11, don't we?
Yeah, and it wasn't so much so before 9/11. I mean, I actually got into a bit of trouble in 1996 with a cartoon I drew.
Yeah, in fact, let's show this cartoon that Jim Moran drew in, this was 1996, and if you can't read it, here on the left, the Fidel Castro figure is saying, "We blow unarmed civilian aircraft out of the sky with MiG jet fighters."